Okay, let's get into the world of equities and the stock market. So, is the stock market overpriced, underpriced, or fairly priced?
Well, it's clearly overpriced. That doesn't mean it's going to go way down because they can print too much money and then it's going to go up in nominal terms. But in terms of gold, the stock market is going to come down a lot. There's no doubt in my mind that that's going to happen. If you take a look at gold as real money and you look at what is the price of the stock market in real money and what is that price going to be in the future, it's going to be a lot lower. Now, it could be with the stock market going up, just not as much as gold. As I've said, in the last 23 years, that's when this century started, the Dow is up fourfold and gold is up eightfold. So in terms of gold, the Dow is down 50% in over 20 years. So that's a decline. I think that's going to continue. And I think it's going to accelerate. I think the market has a long way to go down. Tech stocks have even bigger to go. Not that I'm not optimistic on technology. I mean, I'm very optimistic on the future of technology. I mean, how could you not be? But the markets always get ahead of, where things are. And a lot of optimism gets priced in. You have a lot of people that have piled into the Mag 7 or not even 7 anymore. How many are left that are still magnificent? But it's a crowded trade. And so we're going to get a washout. But, the Fed is going to print a lot of money. So it's a moving target, because it's like if I was going to measure my height, but I didn't know how big the ruler was going to be. If you could keep shrinking the ruler, I could be 7 foot tall. Doesn't mean I can dunk the basketball because I'm still the same height, but the ruler is smaller. And so if you make money smaller and now you measure your stock portfolio, it's going to look like it's a bigger portfolio, but it's not. You just change the way you measure it. Gold is constant. Gold can't be changed by government. An ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. And so it's legitimate, and you're going to see prices go down, and they're going to go down a lot because not only is the market way overpriced in terms of gold, but we have a serious economic crisis in our future because we got to pay the piper for all this debt and the serial bubble blowing. The economy is completely dysfunctional. Look at the most recent economic data. We have record low savings in this country, record high consumer debt, credit card debt, corporate debt, government debt, you name it, record high debt. We have a massive collapse of the commercial real estate market. We have an insolvent banking system where they've lost money on every mortgage they've written, every commercial mortgage, every residential mortgage. It's a disaster. We just had the worst merchandise trade deficit in 1 month in history, with the exception of the first 4 months of 2022, which were an aberration because that's when we reopened the economy from the pandemic and we had a backlog of goods that came shipped in. But we have our trade deficits are skyrocketing, our budget deficits, the national debt is almost 35.3 trillion. It's rising at a rate above 3 trillion a year. Interest is now the third largest line item on the federal budget. We're spending over $1 trillion a year just on interest on the debt. Within another year or two, interest expense will be higher than Social Security and or Medicare. It'll be the number one thing that the government spends money on. At some point, all of our tax revenue is going to go just to pay interest on the debt, which is an impossible point to get to. We're going to have a collapse before it gets that bad. I can't imagine our creditors being dumb enough to allow that. Although, again, I've overestimated the intelligence of investors in the past, right? Like I did with Bitcoin. And they've already gone along with this longer than they should have. But the move to de-dollarize has already started. You can see that. The BRIC nations, these countries are, not holding as many dollars. They're trying to get out of dollars. They're buying gold. That's where the gold buying is coming from. It's coming from central banks other than industry because retail investors haven't been buying. I mean, they've been selling gold. There were net redemptions coming out of gold ETFs all year. I'm not sure if that's stopped yet. But retail investors have been selling their gold, right? They don't have confidence in it. They have confidence in Nvidia. That's what they're buying, or they're buying Bitcoin. They weren't buying any gold. And so gold is cheap. Stocks are expensive. And we're going to have a real financial crisis. I mean, the real crash is something that I wrote about in my 2013 book. And we haven't had it yet. You know, when I wrote my first book, Crash Proof, in 07, and then we got the financial crisis in 08, a lot of people thought that, you were right. You know, you wrote about an economic collapse and we had it. And I had to write my other book to remind people that the crash that I predicted hadn't happened yet. That yes, I did predict the collapse of the real estate market and the financial crisis, but that wasn't the economic crash. That was supposed to come next. That hasn't happened yet. And it still hasn't happened. But all the ingredients are there. It's going to happen. In fact, it's going to happen worse than had it happened 10 years ago, because all the problems that I pointed out back then are worse now. It's not like any of them got solved. They're all worse. And they got worse because we succeeded in postponing the pain. We kicked the can down the road, but that just allowed the problems to get bigger. So now we have even more debt. We have an even bigger bubble. So the economy is even more screwed up with more misallocations of resources and malinvestments and stuff like that. And so the market now has a bigger mess to fix. And so that means, it's worse. So it's a more painful crisis. More people are going to lose even more money. And I think my strategy, I'll end up making even more money. Well, hopefully I get to keep it. I mean, I'm living here in Puerto Rico, so at least I'm exempt from income tax and the capital gains tax. But who knows? I mean, I've got about as much tax certainty as I guess you could have, but it's never certain because who knows?
To continue leveling up your crypto game, then you need to get on the Bankless newsletter. It's the world's most popular crypto email and is completely free. Just click below to sign up.